So I think the next thing we'll work on is these half-eaten, what I think are Redbuds. So we'll get these away from the soil and we're going to look to put them in this nice oval olive pot. Only £6, nice and cheap, cheap as chips, made in China. Get rid of the label. And you know, at £6, that's a nice pot for £6. You can't really go wrong, can you? We'll just put a couple of screens in the bottom there. Bring in a scoop of soil just to get a level of soil in the bottom of that pot. And now let's look at getting this out. We actually have 4, so we'll have to try and pop one up as a single and make this a threesome, because whilst I don't normally worry about even and odd numbers, the number 4 is obviously the big no-no. You don't do it in 4s. So let's assuming these will be able to be potted on, let's do one as a single and then the rest can go in as a threesome. I'll just try and tease these out of the pot. They have some decent amount of root at the bottom, so they should hopefully carry on and do quite well. Just break those apart. I think I'm going to have to take them in and rinse them off, because that soil kind of, it's that sticky clay particle that is a bit clingy and a bit sticky, so we'll look to get that removed without damaging the roots too much. And the question is do we put the larger one in its own pot and pot up the 3 tiny ones, or crossover? I think we will. I think we'll put the larger one into its own pot, and then we'll put these 3 into their own, and there'll be plenty of room in there for the roots to grow. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll get these rinsed off and I'll put them in this jar for the time being, just to keep the roots nice and moist. So that's some nice rainwater in there. Right, I'll go and get these rinsed off. So we've got all those roots rinsed off. There's still a little bit of the old soil on there, but nothing too much. And we've got the olive pot to put the 3 smaller ones in. And then I found this tan coloured pot that I think would be really nice for the single one. It's got some pictures on the bottom there, just trying to look to see if I can see what it is. It looked to be some flying birds or something on the bottom of that, but it's a nice interesting pot, and I look forward to putting the single one in there. So I think we're going to have to put a bit more soil into our olive pot. It's going to be quite big for the trees. I think we're also going to be able to plant them quite deep. So it's got, see, we've got these twisted roots, but given the situation that we're in, we're not going to mess about with them too much. So I'll just create a bit of a hole for those roots to sit in. They've gone in nicely. Again, we'll get a little bit of the azus, and we'll just allow a little bit to go in. Seems to be a bit clumpy, but we'll just merge it in around the roots and then just push the soil up and around. Hopefully that'll be okay for them. This other one that we've put down to one side, this can be sort of in the middle but maybe slightly, you know, not in a straight line, so we just push it slightly to the back and we'll get a little bit more of the Jesus. That's gone in. It seems to be a bit lumpy in there. I'm not sure whether this has been a bit damp or something at some stage, but it breaks up nicely once it's there, and now it's in and around the roots. That should hopefully be okay. We'll just push that in, and then we've got a straggler. It's not a huge amount of root on there. You can see the tiny tap root that came down and it's split, but we're not going to do any root work. We'll just get that in, hold it in a sort of happy position. A little bit of the Jesus powder, we don't need a great amount. And hopefully that'll be nice and good for the trees to carry on. We'll just support them while we put a bit of soil around. They're planted quite deep. But that's just the way it is. We'll just pat the soil in. Hopefully these will be quite happy and continue to grow. I mean, they're not really doing anything. They've been growing for all that time, 3 years there or thereabouts, so they haven't done a great deal, but who knows, they may well shoot up and shoot off now with the nice new soil and the Jesus in the roots. We've done everything we can, so we'll give it a good watering through. These are really good, these little bottle top watering systems, because you can get exactly where you want to be. You know, you get a watering can and it throws it all over. Even this tiny little Hawes plastic watering can, you come in with it and it wants to chuck it round the side and all over the place, and you don't actually get it into the part of the tree where you actually wanting to water. So they're nice, but if you want to make sure that you're watering the part of the tree that you want, straight in with these and it gets straight through. I can see that that's pooling up down towards the back there. We've got lots of water coming out of the bottom, so I'll put it on its humidity tray. There it is there, 3 little sticks with a bit of greenery on, and we'll see what they can do. Who knows? We'll come to our last one of these. We've got our drainage screens in, a bit of soil, maybe a little bit too much there. Let's get our tree, and you can see it's got a bit of a kinky main root and there's some long roots, but we're not going to equalize it or do anything dramatic at the moment. We'll just put it slightly off to one side, and hopefully it will do well. We'll put a bit of Jesus powder in there. And we'll get a bit of soil on top. And just try and stand it up a little bit. It's wanting to lean to one side. And we'll add a bit of water. Get all that dusty soil particle through. And hopefully this will do quite well. You see all the water passing straight through, it's flowing away towards the ASUS packet, so we'll just pick that up, seal it up, put it to one side, and hopefully this little fella will do quite well. We'll just lean it over to one side to allow the water to drain away, and then we'll find a home for it. You can sit there for now, and then I'm going to take a little break and we'll come back and we'll put, I think, a bit of a forest together with these leftover pines. We've got quite a few. One rather large one there, and a couple here and here. So bear with me, and I'll get prepared and we'll come back in a bit. So here we are back again with the pines, and I'm contemplating setting some up as singular or creating a bit of a forest sort of situation. Now I've got options of using a training pot, an oval training pot to create the forest, or the new pot, which I think is probably a bit deep, but it gives it an immediate use. The roots would grow a lot better in that one than going into probably the bigger one of these, but I also think if we put them into these, we'll be able to pull them all together and make our pine forest. Let's get some of these out of their pots, see what we get, see what we're left with, and we'll make a decision from that. So I believe this is a birch, so that means this was a rogue seed that was in the soil with this pine. So we'll save this and put that into its own little pot for sure. So let's start with this. Get this one out. See, we've got some nice soil there at the top that had grown, but we'll get rid of that. See if we can just separate the trees. Right, that's the birch. We'll drop that back into there for now. It has got some new growth forming, so we'll get this out. It's got a big drainage screen at the bottom, which we've learnt not to do. Thank you, Nigel. after his experience, and I don't know whether we'll be able to put that in there, so I will lay it in our proposed pot. So that's that one. We'll take this one. Oh, it's in that terrible, horrible soil. Yeah, and there's no wonder it didn't do very well. This is that horrible mushy stuff that went down to a really fine grit, and that really is going to appreciate being pulled out of that. The drainage screen has grabbed the root, so we lost a bit of root there, but we've got that one. The pinus out of the trio kit we'll have that. That's in slightly better soil, but the root is not the best. This other little pine, it has got buds, and I've known them to explode even after not doing anything for a long time. It's got a little bit of root there, so we'll give it its chance. We'll put it in and plant it on. This one looks really good and strong. It's got some lovely buds up the top, it's got a couple of buds down below, and it's a twin style trunk. But pines really do take a long time, especially from seed, and then all of a sudden they accelerate. So that's got a lot of root that's gone round the bottom of the pot there, and it's been in that tiny little pot all that time. There's no wonder it hasn't done amazingly well. We'll get this other pinus from the trio kit from 2 years ago, and we'll allow the soil to come away and keep as much root as possible. I think they will carry on, they will do quite well. So then we've got the larch, I forget which pine this one is, might be a Scots pine that one, but somebody's going to scream at me and say no it's not, you fool. But I thought the Scots pine went into the pink pot from memory, so I'm only assuming it's the Scots pine. I know, should never assume. So we'll take that one out because that, oh look at that, there's hardly any root on it. Let's put that in the water. It's probably all died off in the soil, or it just never really put much down in the first place. There doesn't seem to be any traces of root further down, so it didn't do very well on the root front. There are some bits there, so hopefully it'll grow. I mean, it was growing, so there's no reason why it shouldn't. Then we've got this one from the Bonsai Beauties. Oh, it was growing quite well, as you can see. We'll just knock the soil away from it. It's got a lot of soil in the roots, so we'll just shake that out. It's that horrible soil again. I should have worked on these a long time ago, but I've just kept procrastinating, as I said before, and putting it off and putting it off, but not anymore. So that's got a lot of healthy root on there. And we have the larch. After losing all my larches, I kind of want to keep that. So we've got the silver birch, the patula, and we've got the larch. I think I might keep them separate from the rest of the pines here. So let's get this tidied up. We'll put the larch out of the way. We'll get that into its own pot, but we'll come back and we'll decide whether or not the smaller tray, there's not that many pines, and if we don't put these in with it, it only needs the smaller tray. Time for a bit of a refreshment. So we've washed off the roots of the pines, and they probably would fit into this ceramic pot if only it was maybe just a little bit deeper. I don't want to take any root off. I want it to keep its root until it's really established. I don't want to cause any problems, but I would have liked to have got it into that. It would have set off with the trunks, so they would have been quite, you know, they would have looked quite good, I think, in there. But and then we have 1, 2, 3, one baby one, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got a good number. However, they're a bit sparse, so to have them into this larger oval pot would be quite pointless. Although it's deeper, so it would accommodate these roots a lot better, the narrower pot, the slightly smaller pot, will probably accommodate these really well. So we'll lift the trees out to one side, and we'll go and give this a bit of a rinse out. It's obviously had the trees sat in it, and it's got a little bit messy. It won't take me too long to rinse it out, so let me just go and rinse it off. So it's been cleaned up a little bit. Let's get a bit of the soil into the bottom. No need for drainage screens because it's got those drainage holes, and it's also got the additional holes which could be used for wiring, etc., but we're not going to be wiring these. Could probably use something a bit better for scooping this in, to be fair. So if I get down here, if we put this larger one into centre stage, we can make a decision of around about where to put it, and that sort of location wouldn't be too bad. So what we do want is some azus, especially with the pines. The bacteria will work really well in with these roots. That's what they're for. And then we'll just bring some soil up and mound it around those roots. That's going to be tree number 1. We'll now go with the tiny ones, and again we just need to find a bit of a location for it to sit. And that will do just quite well there. Make sure the azus is around the roots, and just try and make sure the tree stays nice and firm. Put more, just push some soil up and around it just to help support it, as well as the main tree that we've got in there. Get a bit more soil. we can push the soil around the pot to make it suit. So let's go with another smaller one and just find a bit of a location in the soil for it to be. We'll chuck a bit of Jesus powder in with that. I'm so glad Tom sent me this. That'll do quite well there. This one's a nice looking one, and I think we can probably place it somewhere around that sort of location, so we'll put a bit of powder in there. We're not going to mess with the roots too much. We'll just get some soil over them and make sure that it stands up nicely, which it is doing. Then we have another tiny little one which can go on this edge. So a bit of the Jesus powder, just muck it in a little bit just to make sure it's in with the roots. And that'll sit there quite nicely. It's a little bit messy, but as long as we get them in, that's our main objective. I need to just go and do something with the GoPro, so I'll be back shortly. So the battery on the GoPro was pretty dead there, so I've managed to get a quick bit of charge in it, some 27%. So we'll get this planting finished off, and then I've got these to obviously look at as well. But what we'll probably do is call this an end to this part in the series, and then we'll come back to finish putting those into some pots and potting them on, and we'll also do a review of the other bits that we've done, and then we'll continue to work on all these trees going forward. So without any further ado, let us put some Jesus in those roots. We'll just mix it up a little bit and then push the soil in and around, and we've got plenty to go with. Pete's decided to come and pay us a visit. Hiya, Pete. We'll just push a bit of soil in. So the composition's a bit, you know, it's all towards the back, but I'm not going to worry too much. We've got this one last seedling to drop in, so I think we're going to use either this space here or this space here, and I'm thinking this one. So we'll just create the space, a little bit of Jesus in the soil. We'll just push the roots into the Jesus, and then we'll get a shovel of soil and let that fall in and around that tree. And then if we just come down, we can see that the planting is quite okay. It's got a long way to go, but what we need to do is just fill the pot up with the soil around the seedlings to the same height as the rim of the pot. So we'll just tamp everything in. Got plenty to put in around the back here.
Here's what I found from MacLeod.com. A roundabout is a circular intersection with a central island and without.
So we'll just dress that in, push that around our little trees. And it's nice and random, so it's not like it's, you know, a man-made straight lines, and you know, there's a lot of randomness to it with the fact that we've just put the trees in without any uniformity. So, you know, there's some empty places there, and I might just put some pieces of moss into the larger spaces after we give it a good rinse through. So we'll give it a good blast. This should do really well now. The trees are nice and alive, even though they haven't done a huge amount over the 3 years that they've been growing. But now there's no excuse for them not to have a good growth spurt. There's a lot of good soil here. The azus in the roots will just get some of the foliage wet. We've got some bits of moss that we can work with, so we'll just dampen the moss down. Because it'll be a good idea just to rumble the mud off the bottom of the moss here, and then we can place the moss into our bonsai soil. And if we just do it in a few little patches here or there, push it down nice and firmly so it gets into definite contact with our bonsai soil, and we'll just scrape as much of this mud off the bottom as possible, just to get rid of the thick layer of mud that came up when this was collected. And then we can place it in with our soil, and hopefully it'll grow nicely and do well. There's a nice big patch in the middle there that we can push it down and into. Hopefully, like I say, this will do quite well. Give it a bit of a spray with our water bottle. I think if we get a couple of pieces just into there for a bit of uniformity, I can drop a bit in there. And then scrape a bit of soil off the bottom of this one, and just a little bit in between there. So this is going to introduce mud and dirt into the planting, but it should be okay. and hopefully the moss will continue to grow. So that's our pines. Bit of a drab forest for now, but it's the beginnings, and hopefully it'll continue to grow. Lots of moss still left. That bit seems to have died off now. My adeniums that now look, I thought they were brilliant. They came pretty much all like that one, and the snails came in and ate the top of that off. But this one was almost as thin, maybe not quite, and I've managed to swell the trunk up to that thickness, and I thought I was doing really well. And then I saw the the ones that Jay, bloody snail again, where are you coming from? The ones that Jay Madore got for Nigel and for those guys out there, and I have serious adenum. Inferiority complex now. But they'll grow and they'll do well. We will do some tests on these. I've seen where people slice the bottom and place them on to get the roots to come out in a radial pattern, so we'll do that with some of them and we'll see how they get on. But you little swine, you're out of here. You are evicted. So that's going to do it again for today here. That's the end of part 3. As always, I'm Scott Winard from Let's Do Bonsai. So get out there and make the best of the rest of your day. Be kind to each other, animals and the planet, and as always, I'll see you again in the next one.